Please note that the story contains testimony of a graphic sexual nature and may be upsetting to some viewers and even listeners. The Judicial Conduct Tribunal probing sexual harassment allegations against Eastern Cape Judge President Selby Mbenenge has heard that the exchanges between the top judge and the junior staffers started off in a professional manner, but slowly degenerated with the use of emojis to, and I quote, convey sexual acts. And now this analysis forms part of the expert evidence of Dr Zakeera Docrat, the second witness to be called before the misconduct probe. Now this as Judge's Secretary Andiswa Mengo accuses Mbenenge of sexually harassing her via in-person interaction as well as electronic communication. This is between June 2021 as well as November 2022.
So as a forensic and legal linguist, the first thing we would look at is to ensure we've got a significant data set. And by data set, Chair, I mean the number of text messages or the number of documents. Again, within this context, it was the number of text messages. So if I were to be provided with only 5 text messages, Chair, there is no possible way in which I could interpret the emojis and establish a context, an understanding of what was the conversation between the sender and the recipient and the intention of the sender from the written text and the emojis.
Let's explore this further now. We speak to SABC News senior reporter Canny Maphanga. Canny, of course, lots of focus on these conversations that are said to have degenerated, starting off as professional, but there's an interesting point about the eggplant as well as the peach emoji.
Well, indeed, Bongiwe, this is a witness that was called in by the evidence leader, Advocate Salome Skeepers, and she's provided quite an insightful analysis into the use of emojis. I mean, who knew the kind of work and research that goes behind these kind of emojis that we utilize every day as part of our regular exchanges. However, they convey such intricate meanings when analyzed in their context. So that is what she's here to give to the tribunal. You may remember that the Judge's Secretary Andiswa Mengo went to great lengths over 10 days to explain the exchanges between her and the Judge President, Selby Mbenenge, the impact it had on her, how she understood the emojis, what the message was attempting to convey to her. Then, of course, when she too responded with emojis, because remember, she caught a lot of flack for that, for responding to those texts that were laden with that sexual innuendo with laughing emojis. She then gave her own meaning or ascribed her own meaning to those particular text messages. So what the evidence leader has done has gone through some of those emojis and the context that the experts analyst can come up with. So some of the messages that were highlighted, of course, was the message where the Judge President allegedly sent her the sequence of the eggplant and the peach fruit emoji. And that followed the text message which asked intimate with a question mark. So the job of the analyst is to provide the context or the expert context as to what would that mean if you place this sequence of emojis followed by that particular text. And her analysis is that the standard understanding of those emojis is that you're dealing with a vegetable and a fruit. However, when you look at it within its context, the analysis shows you that the message was depicting, or the sequence of emojis were depicting, a sexual act. And then she goes on to explain the emoji of the peeled banana that was allegedly sent by the Judge President to the Judge's Secretary. And it followed an acronym which referred to a sexual act. And in that context as well, she didn't identify it as a fruit, that is Dr. Docrat. She identified it as a uncircumcised private part, meaning that it was referencing a sexual act when it was sent within that context. So that is the kind of testimony, or rather expert testimony, because for the past few days we've seen quite technical testimony coming through in this tribunal. We expect that 9 witnesses are going to form part of the evidence leader's case as she continues bringing witnesses for this probe. And of course, for the past 2 days, we've seen the highly technical evidence. Yesterday, we saw the forensic investigator confirm that those disputed texts of a sexual nature do not exist because he cannot retrieve it, neither from the phone of the judge president or from the phone of Andiswa Mengo. And then today, we are going into great detail as to what these emojis mean. And of course, the Judge President's Counsel will be cross-examining Dr. Docrat regarding her analysis on the emojis used in the WhatsApp exchanges between the pair and what those emojis intend to convey, or what message they intend to convey within the context in which they are read.
And Canny, when you sit through it, right, the tribunal, I wonder, what do you think the strategy that the defense is using here, especially the lawyers of Judge President, especially when it comes to cross-examination, what point are they trying to drive home?
Well, the cross-examination of Judge President Mbenenge's counsel seeks to dismantle this belief that when someone sends an emoji, there can be an expert analysis that trumps their own understanding of what they are trying to send when they send it. So their argument is that the analysis of Dr. Docrat and Ms. Mengo's meaning ascribed to the emojis, as she has testified in the January leg of the testimony, do not match up. And the question then is, if the two do not match up, then whose analysis must then prevail? So of course, Dr. Docrat will explain that where there is a dispute, of course, her role becomes significant to the tribunal because then she can explain what the context is. But where there isn't a dispute regarding the meaning that one has ascribed to the particular emoji that they're using, then of course one has to accept the complainant or the respondent's version of events. But what I expect to happen tomorrow is that her analysis or the meaning that she has ascribed within the context of the text in those WhatsApp exchanges are going to be dismantled or they're going to attempt to dismantle it, because it is their argument that one ascribes meaning to the emojis when they send that particular text message, and that there isn't, I guess, a standardized or rather expert view that can trump what someone was trying to convey in their own understanding when they sent that particular text message. It's going to be quite a difficult task because the expert analysis has been able to link the text and what the text implies together with the sequence of the emojis when they are used in a particular manner, what that message is trying to convey. And we are dealing with a sexual harassment probe. However, it is dealing with a large bulk of that evidence being the electronic complaints where there is the WhatsApp exchanges, and it is all open to interpretation and what the subjective meaning was when the pair engaged in that manner.
Kenny, quite an interesting one. Who would have thought that emojis can actually form part of some analysis in a particular, legal matter? But thank you so much for bringing us up to speed with that, and looking forward to tomorrow as to what happens then, as, of course, this tribunal continues. That was my colleague, SABC News senior reporter, Canny Maphanga.